just
our
have
answers
so
to 10
much.
seconds.
Yeah.
You know.
So I have a couple questions, but basically, how, I'm trying to phrase it. What would you say to fans who look at characters and say, hey, this character acts like they have such and such mental disorder? Like, for instance, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I've heard a lot of people saying Newt has Asperger's or autism of some form. And as somebody who has a lot of autism and Asperger's in the family, I look at that and I can notice all the traits that he's exhibiting that line up with my friends and my family and myself. So, kind of what would you say to people who try to put their own labels on
Diagnosed
characters?
Can I do this one? Don't tell people how to fandom. If fandom is such a beautifully impersonal thing, if that's how somebody enjoys their character, let them enjoy the character that way. I mean, I can understand being protective and not wanting certain labels to go on certain characters, but the minute we start really disciplining how people fandom, it's gonna all fall apart. So let people fandom the way they want, let people like what they want, and as long as everybody involved is being healthy for themselves, that's the most important thing.
Here's the other thing too. You can go, really? You think that? Why?
Yeah.
Open the
Have a
dialogue.
conversation.
Dialogues are good.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't get defensive and fight them on it.
Absolutely, and actually within psychology too, while I've been kind of going through my second year, I am nowhere near finished. I will never be finished. But one of the things that I notice is that fandom actually gets pulled up a lot for different diagnostic assignments. It's a lot easier to mess around if you're not professional with characters you cannot hurt. It's much, much better than taking somebody's actual sheet and trying to come up with a diagnosis when you don't have complete information. So it's something that even the mental health professionals employ to some degree. I think as long as you're not hurting anything, there's no foul.
And it's fun to diagnose Darth Vader with borderline personality disorder. Okay.
He was going to say, wait.
Yeah,
Clint
all I was
gonna
going to say, it's an opportunity to open the dialogue,
Yep.
you know, and just look at, try and just understand and educate, and it's just fun to have a conversation, you know. So.
Speaking of borderline personality disorder, I find that that's highly underrepresented and unfairly represented.
Yes.
And those in the creative arts, how do you feel that could be changed?
Which disorder are we talking about?
Borderline
Can I jump on this one
personality.
real quick? So when I was a therapist, I focused on trauma therapy and did specifically a program called Seeking Safety, which is for people with borderline personality disorder. I say that because I don't believe it's really a personality disorder. It's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I found such a comorbidity between the two that it's almost impossible to say that borderline personality disorder comes about without trauma. And it's not just a single event of trauma. It's traumatic childhood, traumatic, well, a lot of times it's traumatic childhood. And so, but the problem is borderline personality disorder is seen as unreasonable. It's that extreme devaluation and that extreme infatuation. And what people aren't seeing is the pain where that comes from and how it's a desperate attempt of, I want to be loved, but I'm scared you'll hurt me.
I hate you, don't leave me.
Yep. So how that gets written well, you know, I think the only time, I'm sure there's been indie projects, but the only time I've ever even seen it approached was Girl Interrupted. And it came close. But I haven't seen it since long before I even started my undergrad, so I'd have to review it to see how accurate it is now. But as it stands, really, I mean, if you're a creator or you want to be a creator and you want to try and figure out what something is, talk to somebody who's got it and do it respectfully. So you'll find out that it's like, oh, they're not all basic instinct or everyone fatal attraction.
That's a really cool thing, too, really quick about if you're a creator. So like, I can go anywhere and I'll take notes. I'll be in the bottom of a high-rise taking pictures and notes, and they'll walk up to me because I dress like a hobo day to day. And they're like, so are you a terrorist? And I go, I'm a writer. And they're like, let's show you the secrets. So like, seriously, I went to like a rock mine and I'm like, I'm really interested in this stuff. Why are you creeping me out? I'm a writer. And the owner showed up and he took me around the whole place for 2 hours. And it goes back again to like, oh, I'm really interested in you and you're fascinating. And this stuff that's important to you is super awesome. And that works with gravel pits and it works with a lot of people who struggle with these things. So, you know, and again, it goes back to what I said before, is you gotta find things you love about the universe, and it'll help you interact when you don't want to, because there's that shining star. Like, I mean, this is gonna sound silly, but the first thing I said was like, that's an awesome hat, and my wife would hate it. And, because my wife hates a lot of things I like. And so like, even if I don't know him really well, I'd be like, oh, did you bring the hat? And it's something that you can lock into and look forward to more things that'll get you out of your shell.
Okay, we got less than 5 minutes at this point, so let's try. I want to try and get as many questions as we can. Some of us will still stick around, I'm sure.
A short comment. I found that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe it's season 3, it could be season 2, Fitz suffers hypoxia, where he gives the oxygen to Simmons, and he gets an acquired brain injury from the lack of oxygen. And I thought that the way that they portrayed that acquired brain injury was actually relatively accurate. I used to work for the Brain Injury Association of Utah, and so I just think that that's something really interesting for people maybe who also have traumatic brain injury that people might not know about.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Real quick on that too. One of the nice things that they did with that is that they allowed the character to grieve for the loss of ability, and that's a big deal. I think it'd be nice if more of our creators did that.
As long as they didn't cure it with alien technology.
Right.
All right.
So,
Nope, you lost your chance. Sorry.
No, she's in a beautiful dress.
That's right.
That's a gorgeous
Yes.
outfit.
yeah, well, anyway, first off, small comment. I kind of agree with you on your Darth Vader diagnosis.
Oh, I was just kind of tossing. I could defend it. It's just not
especially the
here.
way you defined borderline personality sort of is. That's true. But anyway, getting back to the Marvel universe, I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts about Bucky Barnes and like kind of what he's been through. Oh
I
no.
have so many thoughts about
Well,
this.
this is Caitlin, answer them as best and fast as you can.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I was big.
What's your thought on like how his character's been treated?
Horribly. But everything is horrible when it comes to Bucky Barnes because he's kind of the Marvel whipping boy. One of my favorite parts of Civil War was the fact that T'Challa called him a victim. And I like almost stood up and cheered in the middle of a press screening, which is always a fun thing to do. So I appreciate the fact that it looks like they're finally going to start addressing the fact that he is a victim and not, he wasn't in charge, and I'm glad that at least somebody finally addressed that because they barely address it in the comics, and I'm glid somebody in the movies finally addressed it.
Just as long as they don't turn him into Nomad.
This may be a little deep question, but I'm a suicide survivor, and I've lost my dad, my uncle, and multiple others to suicide. And I'm wondering what can I do to help my 10-year-old boy? But I'm seeing the signs in
Come here.
So
I have the same problem. First of all,
Okay, we're gonna do a private conversation, I think. Do you want to talk to him off mic and off to the side? Would that be better, do you think?
No, that's it.
Okay, just hugs. Hugs are good.
the world will have a
the only thing
hole
that-
without you, and
Yeah.
tell him that.
And thank you for still being here.
Yes.
Be honest with yourself.
He's fighting with his with kids. I don't have kids, but I did start presenting pretty young. Reach out the best you can and make sure they know that you're not going to tell them to just get over it, because I went a full year without any help at all because I thought my parents were going to say, oh, you're fine, just get over it. So kind of just reach out the best you can, but also let him come to you, because we all know that nothing is accomplished by forcing somebody to get help, even when they're young.
And just because I did have a 10-year-old very recently that had some of those issues too, don't forget your safety questions. And if you have to ask them every single morning if they're a risk, You do it every morning.
And I am terrible. I'm a bad daddy. If my kids come in and like I'm vomiting, I go, well, are you done? You know, but that's one area where my son comes in at 2 in the morning, and he says, I need to talk to you. There's stuff in my head. I am out of bed, holding his hand, hugging him, and listening as long as necessary. I think most of us, I have a wife who saved my life once a month. And that's the greatest thing you can do for your son, is to say, look, I know you're not always wanting me in the room, but I'm always in your heart, and you'll always be in mine. And I'm here, and since you're in my heart, if you go away, it will leave a hole. Please don't do that. And there's so many people who have you in their hearts, and we will be here at every moment. And even if I can't hold you and touch you, because sometimes people don't want that, I will sit as close to you as I can, so when you're ready to walk forward, I will leap toward you.
How are we doing on time?
2:48.
Oh,
We
we
can
got
still
it.
get
Okay.
through. We can get through.
Yeah.
We can do
Yeah,
it.
2 minutes.
We're talented.
So my profession is physical therapy, and I work with veterans, as you can imagine, mostly PTSD related. Recently, Ken Burton did a documentary about the Vietnam War, and with the help of our mental health counselors in my facility, we counseled quite a few people, hey, this could be a pretty significant trigger for you, so don't watch it. I know you mentioned about Jessica Jones and the tip getting it right with mental health presentation. What are some areas that you can think of that really top the chart for me that definitely got it wrong about representing mental health in our society?
Split.
Requiem for a
I
Dream.
hate that movie.
Split is terrible.
I actually was told not to watch it because I was told I would be so angry.
Yeah, you would, Split is the biggest one this year. That I still get hate mail for my takedown of that movie.
Wow.
And I wrote that in January.
I don't know. Like, there's so many terrible ones.
Yeah, that's the
Like,
big one though this year, in my opinion.
There's a lot of terrible for all to go.
Let's see if we can get your question.
All right, I mostly just came up here to say thank you for you guys being willing to put something together like this that's real, that can, help us all out in the real world. And you, panic attack next time, tree pose. I went through a yoga company that is research and scientific based because I hate, broad claims. It's cost me a buttload of money, but there is neuroscientific research that says if you go in a tree pose, it can help a panic attack go away. But I work with troubled youth in residential facilities, and I think being able to bring these Fandom things in and have them something to relate to. And one of the biggest things I've noticed was like Spider-Man, like the trauma and loss, they end up creating a healthy mind and body connection.
So I've got to stop the panel, unfortunately. Get in contact with Brian, with what he does, because
Thank you guys.
helps.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll come and talk to you in a second.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Really quick, just before you guys leave, do you have a website or anything like that?
You can find all of my writing and read lots of hate mail that I get on bleedingcool.com and listen to me on the Nerd
Don't read the comments.
Do not ever read the comments on Kaitlyn's stuff. LearnExploreDoor.com or at LearnExploreDoor on Instagram. I'm actually better with Instagram than I am with Wednesday.
CreateRealChange.org. Real is 2 E's because it's all filmmaking breakdown statement, but I'll see you in 2 seconds.
My website is writteninsomnia.com, books that'll keep you up all night. And again, I have a patreon.com, my war on suicide, which is really like my wife will be videotaping times where I'm having trouble, and I'm going to be writing about things that are when I'm having breakdowns. So that, because the goal is to say, hey, other people have this, and guess what? I'm still here, and the reason I call it my war on suicide is because it is. And you guys are all warriors. Thank you for that, and I want to applaud you guys. So thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much.
And I would love to stop and chat, but I'm the moderator on the next panel in this room. So if you want to stick around an hour and check out the experience.